And my triple cup, that's 2 times 2. Man, this shit dogging in the wartime, so
you know I'm ballin', usual like Kobe.
In my opinion, this season has been shot. It was shot the second it stopped, and it's shot because the playoffs, are we really, people just like want basketball back so badly with all this different other stuff going on that they're willing to have a watered down product because they're so bored sitting on their couches at home that they're fiending for sports to come back. Like, people, there are so much bigger things going on right now. Right now is what, June 17th, June 18th? I don't even know what day it is. At this point, all the days are just blending together. And the off season would have been starting right now. Like, our summer is just starting. The NBA season would have been over already. So we've already put up with a couple months of waiting. We can definitely put up with a couple of more to start a fresh new season. Will there be fans in the new season? Probably not. Almost positive there won't be fans to start. In 2020, there won't be fans, right? But if we just look at the models that the Premier League and La Liga and Bundesliga and all these other European soccer leagues have taken, and someone's gonna say, "Oh, you're being hypocritical. Why can those leagues start and why should the NBA not start?" Well, there's a difference. One, they have a running point table in those domestic leagues. They've already played 30 games, and there's no playoffs in La Liga. There's no playoffs in the Premier League. So all those 30 games or so that they played before they've now restarted basically would mean nothing. And it's the similar thing with the NBA, except everyone knows that when the playoffs start, those 16 teams, it goes to 0-0, and it's a whole different ball game. That is not the case with La Liga and all these different leagues. And plus, those other countries have controlled the spread of the virus so much better than we have. And everyone's going to say, "Oh, we're America, we have more people." Well, guess what? China has more people than us, and they've controlled it better than us, and that's where it started. So, in my opinion, there are just so many things going on. We're going to keep getting to it. But first of all, let's just look at it, right? The playoffs. The NBA playoffs. What is the biggest difference between the playoffs and the regular season? Besides the simple fact the players play harder. The intensity of the games, people. The crowd, the electricity, the atmosphere. And I'm not just talking out of my ass because I've been to so many playoff games, right? So I'm a Clipper fan. We're going to talk about that more as we go in this podcast, but one of the big pros of being a Clipper fan instead of a Laker fan is the affordability of tickets. I've been blessed to see so many more games than my Laker fan friends because the Clipper tickets are very reasonably priced, even in the playoffs. I mean, I went to almost all of Chris Paul and Blake Griffin's home playoff games when they were with the Clippers, and I don't think that we paid over $150 one time. Like, most games we paid for were under $100, which just lets you know, because a lot of people are like, "Man, if you go to a lot of playoff games, that's probably so expensive." It's really, we sat in the nosebleeds for most of them, and even just being in the 300 section at Staples Center was just night and day from the regular season. So my dad and I, we did this thing where we stopped going to regular season games because it kind of became a lock that the Clippers were going to make the playoffs with Blake and Chris Paul, that we just started saving our money and just being like, you know what, this regular season games, there's no intensity. Like, it's just, we've become so used to it. So let's just save up all our money and go to all the playoff games. Even if it means we don't get good seats, at least we're there. We could say we were there at every single one. And man, so many of my best memories as a fan or just as a human on this earth have been at playoff games. Like, there's this feeling you get as a fan at the playoff games that you have a direct effect on what's going on the court. Like, I remember game 1 when we played the Spurs in 2015. I remember obviously you have to have someone to cheer for. The players, the most important thing are the players. They have to make the plays. But when they make those momentum plays that get us, I remember DeAndre Jordan had like some big time blocks, sending the ball out of bounds and motion into the crowd and getting hyped. And then I just remember that was a carryover effect. We got lit. Then Jamal would make a 3. And then the Spurs just had no chance in that game. They just had no chance. You know, and there's so much of basketball and sports in general, but especially basketball, is about momentum. And a lot of that momentum is being taken away without the fans. Like, let's say someone goes on like an 8-0 run or something. Like, and you've got that crowd that rattles the other team when the home team is making a run and that road team's like, damn, like 8 straight points, the crowd's going crazy, they start getting rattled, you start seeing turnovers and mistakes. I don't think you're really gonna see that. Like, of course, there's natural momentum in a game, but the crowd just exemplifies that and maximizes that tenfold in the playoffs. So I think for a team like a Milwaukee Bucks, for example, that we saw last year, and this is no disrespect to Giannis or the Bucks, they're a great team, but we saw last year they just weren't ready to win a championship. We saw them get rattled in Toronto, and we saw how they kind of collapsed when the momentum shifted against them. And a team like the Bucks, like LeBron and Kawhi are battle-tested players. Like, they have won championships, multiple. The Bucks haven't yet, so I think it really helps a team like the Bucks to not have to play road games. I think so the defense is, well, you know what? Now the best team can actually win because there's no crowds to affect that. Well, in my opinion, part of being the best team is playing on the road through adversity against loud crowds and shutting them up. Like, you remember, like, Kobe in 2010 against the Suns, big play after big play to shut the crowd up. That's part of what being a champion is, in my opinion. And I think that is completely taken away from the game. And also as an entertainment value. Like, the playoffs, the NBA is an entertainment industry. All these sports are entertainment. Like, I don't think I would watch basketball, like, religiously like I do if it was just the best in the world playing in an empty gym. If that was the norm, I don't think everybody would watch. Like, for example, we didn't have an NFL team in LA for 20 years. And I didn't really care about the NFL, but the reason why I wanted to be a part of the discussion, I don't love football that much. Like, I actually kind of like hockey more. But the reason why I care more about the NFL than the NHL is because everyone watches it. Everyone cares about it. So for me, I wanted to be a part of that. And that just goes to show my point about the NBA and as an entertainment industry is that I don't think everybody would care if Kawhi and LeBron were playing in an empty gym. Like, you might as well just be watching Rico Hines' YouTube videos for that. Like, it's just not that exciting. Like, no crowd, so what's going to happen? Leonard for the win, bang! Shh! Oh, what was that? It was one of the beat writers who spilled their beer. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's what we're going to watch? Like, that's what we're going to see? Like, no reaction to plays? Like, this is the playoffs. To me, it's a disgrace to what the playoffs are. It's a disgrace, and it changes the game. However, you know, the NBA needs their precious money. They need it. If I'm a player, though, let me just say this, because one of the big things about, you know, just being a human being is understanding things from other people's perspectives. Something that I used to struggle with as a kid, and I'm still working on getting better at that. But you got to look at it if you're a player, right, that's in the 22 teams that were invited to Orlando, I would want to play. The competitiveness in me would say that, you know, I don't know how many years of my career I'm getting. You know, your career doesn't last forever. So I'd want to play for sure. If I'm a player, I want to play. Except then you got to take into account the concerns that come with playing. And first, the coronavirus. They're saying, oh, they're going to be isolated in Disney World. Like, that sounds great. Like, in their hotels, they're going to be isolated and stuff. But there's so many other personnel, like, that I don't know what's going to happen with, like, the media. I don't know what the media accessibility is going to be. And then you have, like, the trainers. Like, are they all getting monitored too? They're all staying in these hotels. Like, their family members that are going to come eventually, they're saying they're going to come towards the playoffs. There are just so many factors. Like, what if one player just happens to contract it? That's significant in the playoffs. Like, what if Pascal Siakam has coronavirus and has to miss game 2, 3, and 4 of the playoffs? That your season is ruined. And it's not the same as an injury that happens during the game. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. Like, I just think it's mind-boggling that people want to see it so badly because of their own boredom, that I think the people are being a little bit selfish. Like, I'm wearing a Clipper jersey right now. I've waited 15 years, and a lot of Clipper fans have waited much longer and put up with a lot of shit and misery as being a Clipper fan to wait for us to get a chance to win a championship. But the way, and this is the selfish part of my reasoning with this, is one of the things I was really excited about coming back home from college was, man, with any luck, the Clippers may be in the conference finals when I get back. But obviously, when the coronavirus pandemic hit, I knew that the conference finals were not going to be happening in May. So I thought, man, maybe I'll get a chance to go to Kawhi and PG's first playoff game with the Clippers. Well, I'll tell you what, I probably won't be able to go to that game, but whichever one that fans are first allowed to go to, my ass is going to be there. I can promise you that. And yeah, I think it's just, to me, despite the money, some people want to talk about, look at how much money they're losing. Really? So the NBA, doesn't, like the millionaires that they already are, don't get to get more millions. Cry me a fucking river, dude. Like 40 million people are in unemployment right now. These people that are getting fired from the NBA jobs, whatever jobs that they have, their resumes are probably so good because they've already worked in the NBA that whenever this pandemic is over and people, when things start turning up for the better, they're going to get jobs much easier than a lot of people will. So to me, it's like, I just think that the NBA is putting the players in a tough position by sending them into this isolation, and they're pushing a watered down product in a year that has already gone to shit, and there are more things going on, including the coronavirus. A lot of people will say, well, the virus isn't going away. We don't even know when we're going to have a vaccine. That's true. But I just think that it's better that this is, listen, also another reason why, besides the crowd and the momentum and the legitimacy of the season that I think is already fucked up, imagine a team that has the exact same roster come back the next season, no changes to the roster. They have training camp, whatever. They play 8 regular season games, and then the 9th game is the first game of the playoffs. Game 9 of your season. Now, that's literally what this is. The only thing that everyone says it's not like an offseason is because they're the same team. But let's see. The offseason in NBA starts in mid-June. We have July off. We have August off. And then we have September off. And then we start in mid-October. So approximately 4 months is the offseason. We've been off for 3 months. The league plans on restarting on July 30th or July 31st. That's 4 months, guys. That's the same thing. It's the same as a normal offseason, and you're asking the playoffs to start on game 9 when players have to regain their rhythm. There's probability of injuries because they haven't, no matter how much they've been working out during the pandemic on the side from their home gyms, they are not playing NBA basketball. So there's a lot of chance of injury. To me, the legitimacy of the season has been tainted. And now everyone's saying, like, even Doc Rivers, the coach of my own team, was saying, people that are going to say that this season has an asterisk, those are losers. Well, that's because I think he's saying it because he doesn't want people to discredit the work and how hard it is to win a championship regardless of the circumstance, which is completely true. Like, these players shouldn't be slighted for winning this particular season if it actually ends up happening. But it's not the same as a normal title. You cannot deny that. You cannot. It's not the same when the season stops after 64 games. You're supposed to play, and another one people are saying is, well, there's lockout seasons and people win that. There's a fucking difference. You start out, you just played less games in the beginning, but you start and you play an entire season, and then you go to the playoffs normally. Like, for example, in 2012, there was just 16 games less in the beginning. We still played 66 games and went to the playoffs. So it's not the same as a lockout season. The season has never just stopped in the middle, and it's going to have a playoffs with no fans.